J-E-S-U-S didn't exist. What do I mean by that? Oh, well, it's all a matter of how you understand that sentence. The name, J-E-S-U-S, is impossible. It didn't exist until the 17th century. So what was his name before that? Well, it went through several transformations. And we're going to look at some of those things right now. It's very bizarre. When we say J-E-S-U-S didn't exist, we mean the name J-E-S-U-S didn't exist until it was developed in the 17th century. Scripture. Now, we're talking about the Hebrew-inspired prophets that wrote Scripture. Does not lie or contradict itself in the inspired Hebrew texts. The lies and mistakes and errors come from the translations and the men who teach doctrines from those translations and the creeds that they formed based on those doctrines. When we do research on things independently, that is, you look it up, we prove to ourselves that what we've been taught about Yahusha are distortions. They don't call him Yahusha, do they? Yahusha does exist, but not the imposter that people are expecting. The translations are not inspired as the Hebrew is inspired, because the translators of the Greek, the Latin, Vulgate, and the English were not prophets. But they didn't heed the commandments of Yahuwah either. They shoved them aside because of their policies. Constantine and Marcion and many of the Circus Fathers, they rejected, all the inspired prophets so that they could just teach from what they believed. And these philosophers, the Circus Fathers, were from Alexandria, Egypt. And they were not followers of Yahusha at all. They were philosophers. They were all formerly pagan sun worshippers. That's why there's so much sun worship and symbology in Christianity. They weren't, and the true followers of Yahusha weren't even called Christians. They were referred to as idiots by the Antiochian people. At Antioch, they were first called idiots. That's what the word Christianus actually means. You look up the word Cretan, and you find that it is based upon the ancient Greek meaning of Christianus. It's not like what the dictionaries and encyclopedias are saying to you. For example, when we read the prefaces of the NIV, the NASB, and others, we find the translators replace the name of Yahuwah, H3068, at least 6,823 times in the Tanakh. And they replaced it with a device. They'll even use the word device, L-O-R-D. Well, the Lord is my shepherd, is what you read in the Psalm 23. But it's not correct. It reads Yahuwah Roi, which means Yahuwah is my shepherd. Lord, L-O-R-D, is English. They replaced his name with that word. And it matches the definition of the Hebrew word B-E-L. That's Beth, Ayin, Lamed. And it's also usually known as B-A-A-L. H1167. If you put a H1167 up in your browser and you click enter, it'll take you to this meaning in the Hebrew. Who could do such a thing? The proper transliteration of the name Yahusha is spelled Yod, He, Ua, Shin, Ayin. 5 letters, and it's used 216 times in the Tanakh, and it's word number H3091. When you look that up in Strong's, you're going to see a contorted spelling in the English letters, or the Latin letters is what we use for English, and it's going to be spelling it Yehoshua. And that's because of the 8th century corruption of the Hebrew language, where they inserted vowels that were incorrect. And because Hebrew already has vowels, but they don't believe they do. So today, most people have accepted the distorted form of another word, Joshua, Joshua, due to the translations into the Greek, Iesous. The Latin took it in as Iesv, which is really Iesu, because the V is not a V as we know it. And subsequently, the English word Iesus, Asus. For some unexplained reason, the form in the Latin Vulgate for the name of the man they call Joshua is Iosue. Yosu. For the name we now refer to as Joshua. That's in the Latin Vulgate. And that's closer to the source, but it's still done by translators, and they weren't obedient people. They were corrupting things. They did the best they could, probably. I hope it wasn't intentional. The truth is, this man that served Moses was named Yahusha, not Hosea. Yahusha, and he was the son of Nun, and his name was changed to Yahusha by adding one letter to the beginning of his name at Numbers 13, verse 16. Numbers 13, verse 16. Look it up in an interlinear online dictionary or transcript. Look at the scriptures at Numbers 13, 16 in an interlinear. If you put Numbers 13, 16, interlinear, you'll see it. And it was taken into the Greek translation as Iesous. And we're always taught, oh yeah, that's his name. Well, it's not his name. It's a translator's idea. And it's identical to the Greek spelling for the Mashiach in the Greek at Hebrews 4 and Acts chapter 7. Now I'm going to put a chart up here that will show you the transliterations in these various schemes or different languages. Like the Hebrew form for Yahuwah is shown, and then you're going to see the name Yahusha a little bit to the right. And Yahuwah is found 6,823 times in the Tanakh. That's the name they replaced with Lord. And Yahusha is found 216 times in the Tanakh. Now that's the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvah. And then you're going to see variations of the name Yahusha too. Twice you'll see Yahushua, and once you'll find Yeshua, and that's in the book of Nehemiah, as they came out of Babylon after 70 years, and they were being trained to not say the name Yahuwah. So the name Yahusha has the same component. It's Yahuwah is our deliverer. So they changed the name one time. They found it, and they used it in the book of Nehemiah. At Hebrews 4 and Acts 7, the same Greek lettering is used for Joshua and Yeshua. Now, IHSOUS is just showing you the capital letters in the Greek. The H isn't actually in an E. It's an epsilon in its unsealed form. Okay, well, that's a little bit unfamiliar with most of you, but the IHS is actually an abbreviation for Yahusha in the Greek, and it has been associated with the Egyptian Trinity, of course. But we all probably already know that. Now, this is confirmation that both were called Yahusha in the Hebrew. So the form Yod, He, Ua, Shin, Ayin is correct. The Latin form for this name, Iosue, for the son of Nun in the Latin Vulgate, differs from the form Iesu, or V, which is really a U, used to refer to Yahusha, our Mashiach. Note the V shape is the Latin letter U. Monks have done some monkeying with translations, but the inspired Hebrew texts are the sole source of truth. You have to test everything. So use them to test everything. Look for the Hebrew. Look up the text at several online interlinear sites. Of course, even in those places, all they're going to show you is the Assyrians' Aramaic script for the inspired prophet's writings. So you'll see the letters of the Hebrew written in Aramaic. It'll be a transliteration in Assyrian. The Assyrian script, called Aramaic, was first used about 1000 BCE during the days of Shlomo and Daud, and it was adopted by the Babylonians in the 800th century, 8th century BCE. And then in the 6th century BCE, BCE, when Yehuda went into captivity, they adopted this original Assyrian script that we call Aramaic. And they teach Hebrew with it. And that's bizarre. Well, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next exciting video, and we'll be discovering all sorts of interesting new things. Bye.